Hi, are you in A&P school? Are you confused as to what tools you might really need in aviation? Today we're going to look inside my toolbox here. We're going to talk about what a line mechanic uses on a regular basis. I'm currently working as a line mechanic for a regional airline, so we work on smaller regional jets and just basic everyday line maintenance checks, some mid-range. We go up to what's called an E-check, which is a several hour job, but nothing real heavy. We use minimal tooling. As you can see, I've got my gray toolbox here. This is all I actually take to work, and it's actually got too many tools in it right now. This big roll around that we're working off of stays at home. I don't have room for it there, nor do I need all the tools that I keep in it. So we're going to take a look and see what's in here, and hopefully give you a better idea of the tools that you'll need when you get out and start working into maybe your first job there as a regional airline mechanic. Alright, as you can see, I've got quite the assortment of tools come out of my toolbox. I have probably more tools than most of the guys that I work with in my toolbox, just because that small box is all I have at work. Some of the guys have a bigger roll around like this Craftsman box we're working off of, but I have yet to take one in. This box is full of other tools that I don't need there, so I've just kept it at home. But we'll start over here on the left. I've got a roll of standard combination wrenches. I think these go from 3/8 to 1.25 inches. I've got a smaller roll here of ignition size wrenches, the real small ones. In this bag I've got some snap-on crow's feet used for torquing fittings, hose fittings, fasteners, anything you need to put an open-end wrench on to get a torque. Use those a lot. I have an assorted selection of screwdrivers, both Phillips and straight blade, several different sizes there. About the only screwdrivers I use regularly are this 4-inch flathead, and then I have a Craftsman ratcheting screwdriver here that I use either with a Phillips bit, or I have some specialty bits that are aviation specific that fit in that. I also have some others here in this little carrier, some Torx heads and some Allen heads if I need those. I do have a snap-on offset screwdriver set here, which also takes 1/4 inch drive bits, but you can just put them in and have an offset ratcheting screwdriver. So haven't used that a whole lot, but it is handy when you need it, so I keep it in my box. I don't carry any 1/2 inch drive sockets, but there are a few sockets that are provided from the company that are 1/2 inch drive, so I keep a 1/2 inch ratchet and a couple of extensions in my box just in case I need them. If you haven't seen my video on how to turn a sticky Craftsman ratchet into a nice smooth tool to use, go ahead and look at my other video on that. I do keep a bar of 3/8 sockets. These range from 5/16 all the way up to I believe 1 inch. Yep, 1 inch. And there's an adapter on there to put a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 ratchet onto a 1/4 inch socket. So I've got those sockets, both a long and a standard size 3/8 ratchet. This one's a flex head. This is one of my favorite ratchet styles. And then a couple of extensions and a universal joint for that. Down in my 1/4 inch selection, this is what I use most of the time. I rarely use 3/8 or 1/2 inch drive on aircraft. So I've got a Mac MR4C ratcheting ratchet here. Of course it ratchets, but that's pretty tiny, gets in the little spaces. I've got a standard size Craftsman round head, an older ratchet here that I really like. It's kind of got this thumb wheel, so you can work it with your thumb a little bit better than some of the other ratchets. A little extension here that I just keep on there because it's handy to have. And then I have a snap-on 72 tooth long handled 1/4 inch ratchet. That's really handy for getting in some hard to reach places. I went ahead and bought a set of swiveling 1/4 inch drive sockets. These go from 1/4 inch up to 9/16. They're made by a company called Genius Tools. I bought them off the internet and was actually quite pleased with the quality of them. They've held up pretty well so far. I haven't used them a whole lot, but they seem to be well built, have a pretty decent finish on them. And they're the swivel joint here instead of the pin style universal joint, and I like that because they're a little bit smaller and less bulky. Also have some assorted extensions for my 1/4 inch stuff, a set of deep sockets and shallow sockets, both 12 point, both ranging from 5/16 or 3/16 all the way up to 9/16. Same size set for both of these. I've got a set of feeler gauges here, handy to have. There's a lot of times you'll have to take a measurement on something, so a set of good feeler gauges. This is a taper pin punch. I've got a couple size pin punches, just regular pin punches. You never know when you need one of those. I have a set of inside-outside universal snap ring pliers here from Channel Lock, which are pretty cool. You just flip the lever and they will operate the other direction. So that's good. Take up less space than a full set of wrenches or snap ring pliers. Got a couple different sets of needle nose pliers here and slip joint Channel Lock pliers. Or slip joint pliers, and then I have these duck bills and the side cuts, diagonal cuts, whatever you want to call these. This is what I typically use for safety wire. I do have a set of safety wire pliers here, but I just don't use them. I think they're bulky and cumbersome, and just I've never really been a fan of them. So I usually just use my hands and duckbill pliers and diagonal cutters to do all my safety wire work. I also have 1/4 inch bit adapter that goes with my DeWalt screw gun here for removing panels. All the screws out of the panels really makes that go faster. Got a small ball peen hammer and a rubber plastic mallet here. Sometimes you just need to persuade something a little bit. Got a good inspection mirror. This one extends, not too flimsy. Sometimes you'll get the ones that have really flimsy extension, and I don't like those. They bend or twist or whatever too easy. And then this one also has a pretty good sized mirror so you can actually see what you're doing. I've got a set of standard Allen keys, hex keys. I've got a couple different picks for if you need to pull an O-ring out or something, handy for that. Metal putty knife and then a plastic putty knife in case you need to scrape something off, some sealant or something. If you want to do it on aluminum, you really need to use that plastic putty knife. Got a set of ratcheting box end wrenches here. So these are what I use most of the time. My standard ones I just don't get into as much. Got just a rubber scraper here. You never know when you're going to need that. As for specialty items, I've got a headlamp. This is a Petzl Taquina. It's nice and lightweight, pretty bright. Lights, really important when you're working night shift. I carry not only this headlamp, I also carry just a regular pocket clip LED light. I also carry a couple rolls of safety wire. This is 32 thousandths stainless, and then I've got some 15 thousandths copper wire. Here's some breakaway wire. I also carry, this is a Schrader valve adapter for a nitrogen cart. You can use this for either servicing hydraulics or also the oxygen system if you have to service the oxygen system. Both these items came from the company, they supply them. This is just a high pressure grease fitting adapter for a grease gun. So you just plug this onto the end of a grease gun and you can use it on high pressure Zerk fittings. That wraps up my video on the Line Mechanic's toolbox. Hopefully it was informative and you got some good information on what tools you need and what tools you can pass on. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel. I do produce some aviation related content and some other interesting stuff hopefully you'll like. So go ahead and subscribe for that. And blue skies and happy wrenching.